Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to Thursday's training tip. I'm CB Harris. So today we're going to continue the process of tearing down our Glock 17. Last week we tore apart the slide and all of its associated parts, and today we're going to concentrate mainly on the frame. So again, before you take down any firearm whatsoever, handgun or rifle, we need to make sure that it is cleared and safe. Remove the magazine, lock the slide to the rear, physical and visual check of the chamber, and make sure it's empty. Then we can allow the slide to go forward. For Glocks and a lot of other striker-fired handguns, we need to pull the trigger at this point. With a Glock, we then need to pull the slide slightly rear, pull the tabs on the slide lock, allow it to go forward, and remove it. Now we're going to set aside the slide because really we're going to be concentrating just on the frame and all of its bits and pieces. Now I won't be removing the magazine catch and the magazine catch spring. These can be a little bit of a pain. It is definitely doable, and I think that I'll actually put that in a separate video for how to switch this from a right-handed use to a left-handed use sometime in the future. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to remove the trigger mechanism spring. Okay, this is the mechanism housing spring, and it goes through the back of the frame right here. There are two different sizes of pins. If you're using the add-on backstrap pieces, you'll be using the longer of these two pins, and if you're not, then you would use the shorter of them. Really, we can just use our punch. Again, this is a 16th inch punch, and we're just going to push it all the way out and pull it the rest of the way. Next, we're going to remove our trigger pin, which is this forward pin here, the larger of the two and the one that is closer to the bottom, and our locking block pin, which is the smaller and the one that's closer to the slide. We're going to remove these two pins, again, just simply pushing them out with our punch. Most of the time you don't need a hammer to assist you with these things. If you do, you may want to just wiggle some pieces around, particularly your slide stop lever. If you wiggle that around a little bit, you should be able to push it out without using a hammer. Next, we can take our slide stop lever out, and I'm going to leave the spring attached. It's really not that hard to take it off of there and put it back on, but unless you're replacing that part particularly, you shouldn't have to worry about it. Next, I'm going to take out the locking block. Again, I'm just going to use my punch. I'm going to get under it right here under this lip and just slide this piece right out. Now at this point, I'm going to actually be able to take out the trigger bar, and the trigger housing mechanism all as one unit. Just simply grab a hold of it and pull it right out of there. And now let's take apart this piece. As far as the trigger connected to the trigger bar, this is really not something that's easily taken out. You would actually need to probably drill out this pin. It only goes from one side. It doesn't go all the way through. So it's not something that's easily removed. If you're buying OEM parts, you could just buy this all as one unit. Aftermarket parts usually come as one unit as well. Now let's disconnect the trigger bar from our trigger mechanism housing. And this is simple. We just need to kind of give it a twist. And then it's hooked to a spring at the back of the cruciform part, this section here known as the cruciform, and as you can see there's a hole back there that this spring was attached to. Simply disconnect that and we can set that aside as well. Now this spring, really it's not too hard to take off of there, it just pops right out. Now this is a part, if you're trying to upgrade, it might be something to consider. You can actually get different weights of this spring. This is your trigger spring essentially. Another upgrade part would be this connector, and it is this piece right here, and it simply pushes from one side. If you can see it on this side right here, it simply pushes out. A lot of companies make different disconnectors for different purposes, whether you want it for duty, whether you want it for military type use, or if you're looking for something for competition. There's lots of these things available, and they're actually fairly inexpensive as well, and it's a very good upgrade that you can do at home. So now that that's off of there, the only other part we're going to take off, we're going to take our slide lock off, and this is the piece that locks our slide to our frame. It's the part that we have to use when we're taking it down. It's a simple thing. It's kind of a leaf style spring, and you can see it right here. I don't know if you can see this shiny piece right through there, and we're just going to compress that using our punch. We're going to turn our frame to the side, kind of give it a shake, and our slide and our slide lock should just drop right out. This is another piece that you can upgrade. You can get one with longer, it's a longer tab, a little bit easier to grip for when you're taking it down. Now to get this spring out, simply get your punch under the front lip of that, kind of start to pry out, and it should pop right out of there. So as you can see, taking apart your Glock frame is a very simple, very straightforward thing. You notice I didn't even wear the safety glasses. Really, there's not a lot that's under spring pressure here. So this is something you should be able to do at home. Truly, if you have any mechanical ability, it shouldn't be that big of a project. It's fun to be able to take apart your firearms and work on them yourself. It's nice to know that you can always upgrade parts, you can replace parts as you need to, and that you can do it in the comfort of your own home. You don't have to take it to a gunsmith to work on this. All right, so let's get this thing put back together, and really we're just gonna go in reverse order. First thing we're gonna do, let's take our slide lock spring, and it's pretty simple. It has this little, it's kind of an S-shaped, and the little short end of that goes up, which means the long leg of it goes down, and there's a little slot that it just feeds right into, and it just simply pushes right into place. Now, getting the slide lock in, it is important to make sure that you understand the face of this has a little bit of a lip on it, and that needs to go towards the back of the firearm, just like this. So if we get it started in here, use our punch to push down on our slide lock spring, and it simply slides into place, and then we can let up on our spring. Just double check and make sure everything is tight in there and that it's in place and it's not going to come falling out. Now we take our trigger mechanism housing, we get our connector back into place. It has a slot that it slides right into, slides all the way in as far as it'll go flat. Then we can get our trigger spring, and how this needs to hook, it needs to hook kind of as a hook like this, kind of in this fashion right here. Get it locked in, and then we can get our trigger bar, the cruciform section, that hole that we talked about earlier. We just need to get it locked into that spring. Maybe. It may fight you on it. It's really not that difficult, just small parts. Okay, and then to get the cruciform back where it needs to go, there's this wide slot and this tab needs to go into it. So if you have it kind of at an angle like this, as you drop it in, you can actually just drop it and turn, and it'll lock right into place where it needs to go. Now we can drop our trigger mechanism, all of that back into place. I like to feed the trigger itself in first, and then the trigger mechanism housing in. It slides all the way into its slot. Double check and make sure everything's working right and get everything in place. Then we can take our locking block and slide it in. If you can see, there is actual slots cut where it slides and it kind of sits right around the trigger. At this point we can put our slide stop lever in. If you look right down here, there's a slot kind of right along the left hand side of the trigger from the back side on the inside there. And what this does is this fits right in that slot. Just like that. We need to take our smaller of the two pins, the metal pins anyway, the smaller of the two metal pins, our locking block pin, and we need to get it started across. If you look at it, as you start pushing it across, you'll get to the point where the slide stop lever spring will be in the way. What we need to do is we need to kind of push down on that with our punch as we're pushing that pin in, because that spring, the little leg on that spring, needs to go under that pin. So once we do that, we push it all the way in place, and then we can put our trigger pin in place as well. Again, this is something that we may get to the point where it has some resistance. All we have to do is just kind of move the slide stop lever back and forth a little bit, jiggle it, until we can slide it right into place. Next, if we're going to be using a back strap, we need to put the back strap back in place. Simply start it from the bottom, snap it in, and then we can put our trigger housing pin back in. And I like to use the back of my punch for this. It's a plastic pin, so I don't want to push on it too much, but I want to also get it even so that it's holding my back strap in place correctly. Now that that's done, we can add our slide, put it back on, and then do a function check again, pulling the trigger, holding it to the rear, cycle the slide, release the trigger, listening for the reset, pull the trigger again, and everything is fine. Again, I like to take an empty magazine, insert it in there fully, rack the slide to the rear just to make sure that that empty magazine will lock my slide back. Once that's done, I know that my firearm is ready to go. I know that everything is functioning properly. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you learned something from it. If you take this video and last week's video in conjunction, it should get you just about anything that you guys need as far as working on a Glock handgun. If you have any questions about the stuff that we did today, if you have anything that you want to comment on as far as if I misnamed something, you're a Glock fanboy and you want to let me know, go ahead and leave that down in the comment section. I appreciate hearing from anybody. If you want to see more videos like this and you're not a subscriber, go ahead and click on that subscribe button. I appreciate it when you do that. I also appreciate it when you like and share the videos. Be sure to come back on Monday for the Monday Sit Rep, where we talk about guns in the news and politics and things like that. And next Thursday for another video like this, tips, hints, tricks, and DIY projects. We also have other various videos throughout the month, so be on the lookout for those. And until next time, take care and be safe.